So continuing in my favorite water cooling gaming PC cases, today we're going to talk about the big boy of the bunch, the Caselabs SMA8. Now this case is absolutely epic, made even more so that the company went bankrupt. So let's talk about what makes this case so good. Let's get started. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you like my content, subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment below. Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about the big bad boy of the bunch, and that's going to be the Caselabs SMA8. So what makes this case even more interesting is that the company that makes it, Caselabs, went bankrupt a while back, meaning you can't buy this case new anymore. In fact, the only way to get this, often at inflated prices, is if you go on eBay or maybe some type of other friend or group that you may know. But otherwise, it's very, very difficult to get a case like this, especially one with all the accessories, and these cases are known to be very, very customizable. So I'm going to tell you guys a few brief reasons why I really like this case. It's so epic that it would require probably like a 3-hour video to go over every single detail, but I'll break it down in 3 different areas. We're going to talk about the aesthetics, the performance, and other little interesting build notes, just like we have done so with the other cases. So first, let's talk about the aesthetics. Now, aesthetically speaking, everybody has their opinion, but for me, when you think of the epic water-cooled computer, this is the case that I think about. Now, even Jay's 2 cents has his famous skunkworks that I'm sure you guys have probably seen as well. That's also built in this Caselabs SMA8, so it just has that epic water-cooled computer look. Like, there's something about it that hits all the boxes. It has all the elements to aesthetically be awesome. First of all, it's big enough that you can fit really impressive systems inside, so that looks good. Secondly, probably my favorite thing is being able to see those massive fans on the bottom and on the front, particularly on the bottom. Now, other cases have done this as well. Of course, the Corsair 900D, the Liam Lee V3000. There are other cases that have the fans on the bottom, but the Corsair case, for example, you could just fit a 480. This one, it's a 560 millimeter radiator on the bottom. That means that there are 440 millimeter fans on the bottom, giving it an all-out, extremely impressive look, especially coupled with some RGB fans where you can really see it shine through the grill. So aesthetically, this case is an absolute home run. It looks like an epic water-cooled case. Now, it does have a really big display window. It's not tempered glass, but it still is a pretty clear type of acrylic or whatever it is. It'd be nice if it was tempered glass, but because of the size of this case and maybe shipping, and it's a little bit older than, say, cases coming out now, I could see the reason why it has this. I do believe there was a tempered glass version of it, but as the company started to become bankrupt and it was harder to get cases at near the end, it was harder and harder to find exact specifications. Aesthetically, that's really one cool thing about this case, is how customizable it was. At the time that you could buy it new, you could choose to have different mid plates, different designs to the case. It was really, really very highly customizable. You can do different motherboard trays. It had so many options that you could sort of modularly change different things and fit things in there as you saw fit in order to fit your own aesthetic. Now that the case is no longer available new, you just have to sort of settle for different parts that you find in different places, or whoever's selling it, whatever version they may have. But just keep in mind that when this case was new, you had so many options to change it aesthetically as well as performance-wise with different radiator mounts and things of that nature. And then the other bits of aesthetic, the build quality in this case is just epic. Like, I think I'm literally going to keep this case for like over 20 years and just do different builds in it. Everything just feels really nicely machined and put together. And put together is something that you have to do when you get this case. When I first got it, everything was individually wrapped. Yes, all the panels. It didn't come together like you would have a regular case. All the panels came separately. You have to put them together, almost like you're building a Lego set. You actually have to build the case itself, which it's not that hard. I mean, it'll take you a few hours. It's not like really quick by any means, but it's not difficult at all. It just takes a few hours of matching stuff up, making sure you put things the right way up. It's similar to building IKEA furniture, but much more exciting. And it was a little bit satisfying seeing all the little bags of screws sort of dwindle down and disappear as you put them into the case. And as you saw the case come together, it just became more and more impressive, and you just start to get this crazy excitement to building it. So if you guys ever get a chance to build your own case before you build your own computer, I would definitely recommend it. It gives you such a deep appreciation and a personal connection to the case that I would never want to get rid of this case. It's such a fantastic unit. So now let's talk a little bit about the performance. And this case performs as good as any water cooling case is going to perform on the market, honestly. Airflow is tremendous. First of all, the bottom radiators, 560 millimeter Hardware Labs radiator on the bottom, SR2. So we're talking about a thick radiator. Not only that, I have it in push-pull. I have 4 Corsair ML RGB fans on the front and 4 Corsair ML 140 fans on the back in a push-pull on a very thick radiator. That alone would be enough for basically almost any system. But it doesn't stop there. Performance-wise, let's go to the front of the case. I have a 360 millimeter SR2 Hardware Labs radiator. Now, it's not push-pull. I just have the ML 120 RGB fans on the front. Push-pull, you can still fit in here. I just didn't want to do it because the top fan would be blocked, and I thought it was a little bit overkill to have so many fans. But on the roof, I have another 480 millimeter GTS Hardware Labs radiator. Now, this one's going to be a little bit thinner than the bottom 2 radiators, and I kind of had to do that to make sure that everything would fit. But if you guys have seen reviews on these GTS series of radiators, especially this 480 millimeter model, for the thickness, it performs astoundingly well. You would think it's a much thicker radiator. So these have some of the best performance. The case is kitted out with all Corsair ML 120 or 140 millimeter fans. I think these fans are fantastic. Static pressure has been amazing. And the key point of having so much radiator space here, some people may say it's overkill, but it has a very specific purpose. Basically, it's to keep noise levels almost non-existent. I could be running both of these 2080 SLI or NVLink cards at their max with the pumps down really low, the fan spinning at like 600 RPM. You can't even hear the system when it's going at 100%. That's the benefit of having so much radiator space. So there is a point to it. Before, I had one less radiator, and I noticed when I added the other one, it wasn't necessarily diminishing returns. I got a lot less noise and a lot better cooling performance. It actually went down by a couple of degrees, which may not seem much, but when you're already down there like 42C on your GPU, to go down to like 40 or 39 C, it's a pretty big deal if you're a water cooling enthusiast. I have temperature sensors all along this case and flow sensors to be able to sort of see if everything's performing okay. They've come in handy before. I was able to catch different problems. Maybe something's blocked or not optimized. So that's a tremendous thing about this case. You can fit so many things in it. And even if you wanted, you could add like a pedestal on the bottom and even a compartment on top to fit even more radiator space. These were options originally available with this case. You could technically still do it now. You would have to find these accessories on the secondhand market somewhere. I just decided to keep the case original like it is without having to add those different accessories, just because it just has so much overkill cooling already. I really didn't think I needed it. And this, I have a 9900K that's overclocked, and I have two 2080 NVIDIA cards that are in NVLink, and the cooling performance in this case is absolutely perfect. And of course, we also have room for two D5 pumps and reservoirs. This not only benefits us in terms of being able to have two separate loops, that's another benefit of having such a large case. Performance-wise, you can separate your loops and keep your heat separate, but aesthetically, it looks really awesome because you can do two different colors. colors. In this case, I did green and blue. So that's a really, really cool aspect of this case. Third, let's talk about some other build notes that we haven't talked about in this case and why it's so good. Now, this case has so much stuff that I would have to do many, many videos, and I may, on every single little component and how it works and different things that it's flexible in. For example, it even has a little strip that you can put in an RGB or LED strip and kind of connect it to the top so that way it's out of the way. It has so many intelligent little things, like the motherboard tray slides out. Everything isn't only just high build quality, but it's all intelligently designed for a really awesome gaming PC or workstation, whatever you choose to do with it. The hard drive caddies on the back are absolutely amazing. And let's talk about the back section of this case a little bit. Now, usually in smaller cases, you're kind of cramming your wires in there, even if you do a good job. This case has an insane amount of space sort of behind the back panel as well as on the bottom. Even with push-pull thick radiators that I have in there, I have more than enough space for all of my little water cooling accessories and components like flow sensors. I have tubes running through the back. I have more than enough space for all my cables, that everything is neatly managed. I can easily close the case. That's another really cool thing about this. The front door is like a hinge. It opens almost like a refrigerator door. And the back also opens likewise. And the bottom panels you can just snap off if you have to work there, and everything snaps on really nicely. You know, the panels close. Sometimes when it's fully closed, you do have to, you know, sort of pull on it a little bit hard because it's very tight in there. But overall, if you want to access the inside of this case, it's absolutely magnificent. It's the best put together case that I've ever owned. The only bad thing about this case is that you can't buy it new anymore, and you can't get accessories and things like that. You kind of have to go find it in the used market, which is still okay. You can still find certain things, even though it's getting harder and harder. So I'd say I almost have nothing to complain about with this case. It's an absolute epic case, especially for a water cooling build, and I think it's one you can do multiple versions of builds over time, as well as I've done different builds in this case with different colors and different configurations, changing things around, changing the coolant, even changing the layout and the components. So it's a case that's very flexible and will definitely last you years. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next case in this series. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Check out the other cases as well. I'm going to link it down in the description. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe if you like my content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.